r/askreddit. What are some things you'd only know by growing up poor? How to keep a 7-year-old from knowing she's poor. My mom used to take my brother and I to the soup kitchen every week to volunteer. We must always be kind to those less fortunate, she'd say. Then, after volunteering, oh, it's so late and I don't feel like cooking. Let's just eat here while we're here. This speaks volumes to me. When my sister and I were growing up before the age of 10, we were pretty bad off. Though we never knew it. Our parents were so good at not cluing us into it that we didn't even know until we were adults. We lived in rural Texas, and a couple times a week, my dad would come in and say to us, "I noticed a lot of people littering on the way home. We should go do our part to keep our community beautiful and clean." So we would go walk up and down the highway picking up cans and glass bottles. We would then take them to the recycling yard where we got to watch the cool machine shoot the cans at the big pile of crushed cans. I later found out we did that because we couldn't afford basic necessities, and we were collecting recyclables, which the yard paid for by the pound at the time, so we could go buy a gallon of milk, eggs, and bread. My parents are my role models now, and I only hope I have been half as good a parent to my kids as my parents were to me. Your mother is a remarkable person. Whenever a friend came over to spend the night, my mom would not eat dinner so that we would have enough for my friend. I never knew until years later. She would tell me she ate while she was cooking or that she was really in the mood for some popcorn. It also hit me how I always had fantastic Christmases and birthdays and how long my mom and dad had to save up to give me that kind of awesome day. I hope that I'll be able to be that way for my kids if I ever have any. When someone breaks into your house but doesn't take anything. Happened once. Still think it's funny. Poignant. Thief realizes he's not as desperate as the people who live there. I saw a story once, still unsure if it was real or not, about someone who had only an old mattress and a sheet in their tiny apartment. Some people broke in and saw that there was nothing, then waiting for the owner to come home. They told the owner what they were gonna do but then realized how little the guy had. According to the story, the criminals then, over a few weeks, gave the guy a TV, a bed, a fridge, and some other stuff. He never asked where they got the items from. Your comment reminded me of it. You go to bed early to skip a meal. Edit. Thank you guys so much for the gold and silver. I'm having Reddit awards for dinner today. Sleep for dinner. Nowadays they call it intermittent fasting and it's a trendy diet. Your dad asking you for $20 so he can go to work for the week but he'll pay you back when he gets paid. Yeah, my dad would randomly give me $5 every month or 2 months. Sometimes I saved it up and it always hurt when he needed $20 for gas. I didn't get mad though because it was his money originally. Knowing the cheapest thing on the menu at every restaurant, for when your friend's family invites you out to dinner. Even though you're not paying, you're programmed to only select the cheapest thing. My friend's mom said you sure like hot dogs. That's all you order no matter where we go to eat. I learned these things because I expected that they'd try to pay for me and if I lost the no I'll pay for it battle, then at least I wouldn't be gouging them. I still hate letting others pay for me though. I feel like a moocher. Edit. Gosh, y'all are so wholesome. If anybody needs a pick-me-up, read the comments below this one. Made me smile. You develop an appreciation for hand-me-down clothes when they come your way. Yes, because they were usually still in style and clean. IDK about in other states but in MN they can't shut your power off during the winter because of the danger of someone freezing to death in their house. So that was a good time to try to catch up on some other bills you are way behind on too. They just passed the law in Arizona where it is the other way around starting next summer due to it being 100+ all day and night regularly. Everybody is curious to see how it is going to play out. A lot of states aren't like this. But in the Midwest some states won't allow evictions during the winter either for the same reason. I'm hungry, drink some water, we were probably the best hydrated children at school Mayo. But I think the thing I appreciate most is the independence I've gained through fixing things to keep them going or from just not wanting to ask my parents for help when I know they're struggling too. Edit. Thank you to the kind Redditor for the platinum. I'm comparatively new to Reddit and have never received a medal before, so forgive me if I'm going against protocol. Bro. I didn't expect this to resonate with so many people, but I've just read through everyone's comments. You're all beautiful, strong, and resourceful people, and you deserve the world. I wish you all the best in breaking free from this destructive cycle. It is possible, and if my best wishes can do anything, then it will be possible for you. It's kind of funny to me that a weight loss tip is to drink a glass of water when you feel hungry, and wait a few minutes before actually eating. A bunch of times, when you feel hungry, you were actually thirsty. Libraries can save your life. The first part of my childhood I would get home from school, usually to a vacant house. I really wouldn't know if I was even going to see either of my parents each night. No cell phones of course. But I was always afraid. Nervous at least, of what would happen if they did decide to make an appearance. I started walking to the library every day after school and staying till they closed every night just to avoid the feeling of anxiety for a little longer. Eventually one of the librarians noticed and took a liking to me. I think she might have been through similar things in her life that she saw in me. Gradually we got to know each other. First I started noticing there were more books being added in the genres that I liked. Then one day after the library closed, I walked over to McDonald's. I was a quarter or so short to buy a hamburger and she saw me asking people if they had any change. I saw her and was embarrassed and kinda hid from her. From that point on I think she decided that she was going to take me under her wing. For over a year she would come by my desk at the library and just drop off chips, granola bars, pop, whatever you know. Of course, I would tell her I didn't need it, when in reality I only knew where one meal would come from each day. When I would ask her where it came from, she would just say it was extras from the break room, even though I could hear her in there putting coin after coin into the vending machine. Eventually she would just bring dinner every night to the library and we would sit down in the break room with each other and eat. I finally opened up to her about my family living issues and had her to talk to. Even though I was still pretty guarded, this was a huge relief. Then, after I had been there almost 2 years, it was the week before school started, and I headed into the library. Before I left she told me to meet her outside after close. I did. We walked to her car, and she pulled out a brand new school backpack, and inside was a new outfit, binder, and shoes, my first Nikes. That's when I broke down, and my walls crumbled. She was a single lady working off a librarian's income, but she still made room for me. For 3 years she supported me as much as she could, and she was more of a friend than I had ever experienced up until that point in my life. She is the #1 reason I got out of that house and life. She was with me at all my adoption hearings, and made sure I was put with a nice family. She was at my graduation, and my wedding. She saw me grow up and succeed in life after coming from the bottom. She saw her work and love pay off. I went to her funeral this summer and it felt like I had lost my mother, but I couldn't stop reflecting on how much she changed my life through her sacrifice. Truly an amazing person, and I still donate to the library every year. Edit. So I've only really been active on Reddit for a couple months. I think this is how you're supposed to do this though. It's really cool for me to see that this affected people. I wrote it, and just intended it to kind of disappear into the other 15k comments, and sometimes it just feels good writing stuff out. So just to level with everyone, I only talk to my closest friends about this in my real life. So let's label this a mini therapy session, if you will. Thanks to everyone for the gold silver. Like I said, I'm a noob, and don't know much about gold, so I will be reading about it after work, haha. Appreciate everyone's kind comments. Not to ask their parents for stuff. I had someone in college why I didn't ask my parents for something when I was broke and needed help. They were blown away when I said they were in the same situation. Camping is only fun when you've never had to do it out of necessity. My cheapskate boss told me it was a lifestyle choice. I truly had no idea until I was in my junior year of high school taking child development that Head Start was a program created for children from homes of low income. I simply thought it was a place for me to get a head start as a kid. I still remember my teacher saying verbatim, "No honey, your family was just poor," in front of the whole class. Edit. RIP my inbox. Huh. First, that teacher is a bitch. Also, if you grew up in a small farming community like I did, Head Start is the only thing they had for preschool. So if someone wanted to send a kid to preschool, that was the only option. When I was little they didn't even have preschool. That was also back when kindergarten was a half-day program and you went to either the AM or PM session. What hunger really is. I remember waiting for my dad's payday for the grocery shopping trip and being absolutely ravenous when the food got there. I don't remember which day of the week it was, but we'd go on the day that the most free samples were available. This is where being poor in farm country is a little bit easier than being poor in a city. I worked on a dairy farm when I was a kid and I got to take home a gallon of milk every day. We got deals on chickens and even got a half cow and half pig on the cheap. It was rare for us to be hungry, but everything was cooked from scratch and we all did what we could to contribute. How important ingenuity becomes to eat. Mum could make a bag of potatoes last 2 weeks amongst 5 kids, her and my dad. Rice, butter, and sugar was a breakfast food. Biscuits lasted days, toasted butter and brown sugar for dinner, etc. Anything shiny on the ground might be a coin. I need to get out of this thread. Can still spot a penny on the sidewalk half a block away. How to cook with the government surplus cheese. We got so much of that cheese. A few years ago I stopped in a Hostess bread store in a poor neighborhood. I was the only white guy in the store and while waiting in line, other people started talking about the government cheese. And I said that my family got a lot of it and we liked it. Everyone goes quiet and looked at me. Then someone says, "We thought that was just for black folk." And I said, "No, we got it too because it was for poor people." And then we all started talking about the cheese. Food stamp paper change. When I was a kid, if you used food stamps they would give back the change in food stamp form. My mom was too proud to publicly use them, so she would make up a reason to leave and I would have to pay using them. I was 11 or so. She did it every time. I had to learn to keep my head up. My mother would send me into the store with $20 1-foot stamps. I would stand at the register and get the 95 cents change for each 5-cent gum, one at a time. They figured out what I was doing and started laughing, but they let me do it. The shame was not nearly as bad as dealing with mama without her methadone. I was 11 too. On the bright side, nothing embarrasses me now. Pizza nights are the best birthday present you could ever fucking get. A whole pizza, ordered exactly how you like it, and you get to have more than one slice. Not being able to do extracurriculars. I wanted to be in orchestra and I wanted to play soccer, but we couldn't afford it, so I was told no. Couldn't afford the uniforms or the gas to get me to practice, and definitely couldn't afford a violin. I ended up moving to a largely upper middle class area for college. First boyfriend was rich. He played 9 instruments and played soccer and went skiing since age 6. He voiced that he thought I was lazy and untalented for not having done at least a sport or learned something like guitar. I explained that we couldn't afford it, but that didn't seem to register. He tried to give me his old violin at one point so I could learn, and his mother pretty much ripped it out of my hands. Government cheese. Doing your laundry in a bathtub using only cold water. BC the gas was shut off. Trying to spend the night at your friend's house. BC they had food and a warm room. Thanks Nikki. Loving going to school because you could at least eat there. Trips to Goodwill for new clothes. Showers at school because at least 3 water was warm. Being made fun of because you smelled like kerosene. Having lice and no one doing anything about it. Going to school with bruises. BC your parents took their shitty decisions out on you. I'm so grateful to a handful of people that saw potential in me. I went to college, got a great job, and broke the cycle. Thanks Tom and Tony. Most gas station attendants will not stop a small child from stealing toilet paper from their bathrooms. Who knew? Edit. Thanks for the silver. This iced something I had to do a lot, but it happened from time to time. My mom took excellent care of me. We just fell a bit short sometimes. I used to work at a gas station. I look the other way for a lot of shit. Everyone is struggling and I don't give a shit if a kid steals a candy bar or gets a free IC. One man didn't have enough money for a lighter, so I said wait till I turn around. Go walk to the door, light the cig, throw the lighter on the ground, and walk out. That sometimes your parents sacrifice everything they have, including their sanity just to see you happy. And you only learn later in life the soul-crushing existence of poverty. Then you wonder how they managed to do so much with so little. For reals. I was 30 when I realized what mom meant when she told us kids to go ahead and eat because she ate in the kitchen. Outdated technology. When I started college, one of my professors asked if anyone in our class remembered how you change a channel on the TV before remote controls. I was the only person in the room who remembered turning dials and adjusting rabbit ears despite being one of the youngest students in the class, because my family had a TV from the 70s until 1995. Same sort of thing with computers, phones, etc. If we had it at all, we got something much later than anyone else, after it got cheaper, and bought used. I got my first computer in 1999. It had Windows 3.1 and that was what I used until I was able to use my financial aid to get a new PC tower for college. How good a butter tortilla is. The feeling of not eating for a day or sometimes days. My longest drought was 3 days with no food. Sucks because people make shitty comments about how nice it must be to be so skinny and they have to struggle to keep their weight down. Like, be poor. Go a few days without food and your body just starts to eat itself. I'm thankful I haven't missed a day to eat in 10 years. But I still can't fathom eating 3 meals in one day. If you send a bad check to the utilities company on a Friday, you have power for the weekend. You don't want to repeat a grade level not because it's embarrassing or mommy will scold you, but because that's one less year before you can graduate, work and ease the family's financial burden. But cockroaches are killed by baking soda. You can live on strawberry powder, Nesquik and water for 3 days. My mom could somehow cook 2 chickens on a Sunday and feed 6 people all week. Towards the end it was more just corn chowder cooked in chicken stock, but it was dinner. Also we kept a garden. You didn't work the garden. You didn't eat. Sit down on a summer evening. Better have a bowl in your lap and be shelling, stringing, or shucking something. Feed the hulls to the neighbor's pig because she'll save a ham for us. How to do everything without money. Laundry gets done in the sink. Walking is cheaper than the bus. A shower is cheaper than TP. Torn clothes can be mended. Money isn't everything. Giving when you have extra is the best way to stay afloat in times of need. How people who have money treat you. I went to a girls only grammar school as I passed the exams to get in. There were girls whose parents wouldn't allow to come to my house. I felt lonely, worthless and isolated a lot of the time. But I got my PhD in the end, so fuck you MR and Mrs. Brumhead. You have more of a tendency to be generous, I think. I grew up dirt poor with like 2 pieces of clothing to my name and most of our meals came from the food bank or from donations from the church my parents attended. Still, my mom mostly would not hesitate to help someone worse off than us. Also, you learn how to have fun for free. Kid me thought that getting to use the free desktop computers at the library and going to the park were the best things ever. American ramen tastes better than Nissan ramen. Having to help your single mom earn money by doing odd jobs that involved being embarrassed because you were cleaning the houses of your schoolmates, delivering junk mail to their homes, buying things on the cheap from garage sales that end up being their homes, collecting things people put out for hard rubbish council collection on the street, etc. I had a chair that belonged to an older boy's family, and every couch we have had was off the street. Mum also used to go to open houses when she was dreaming about being able to move to a better place, and one time I discovered I was inside the room of a boy from my grade. Saw his picture on his desk lol. The other time I was really embarrassed was when I had offered a girl in a younger grade a lift home. We had to do Tetris to fit her in the car. There were 20 plus packs of 36 roll toilet paper Mum had gotten on a massive sale from a factory outlet because their had packaging damage was squashed. We were 3 girls and Mum in the house. We went through a lot of loo roll lol.